So now we are going to our last presentation with Dr. Lisa Wallis. So she works as a postdoc for our senior family dog project under the supervision of Dr. Annika Kubinyi. She also works at the University of Liverpool on a project of senior dogs funded by the UK veterinary charity Pet Savers. Lisa's research is focused on the influence of aging on dog welfare, health span, problem solving, learning, memory, trainability, personality, and the dog owner relationship. Today, she will be talking about her work with the Senior Family Dog Project on personality development in dogs and the influence of demographic variables. Please welcome Dr. Lisa Wallis.
Hi, I'm just trying to share my screen, and I'm just having some issues here. I don't know why it was working fine before. Is it now working?
Show, save, duplicate. Okay, now it's working.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Cecilia. Sorry about that. I'll crack on then. Thanks very much for sticking with us to the end. Okay, so just a brief, quick introduction to the topic. Although personality is defined as behavioural differences that are stable across time and situations, there is substantial cross-sectional evidence for mean personality trait change across the lifespan in humans. What this means is, if we look at the data from a population at one specific point in time, we can find differences in personality traits between the age groups of the population. Individuals display unique patterns of development across all life stages, which appear to be the results of specific life experiences. So work, family, and educational experiences have all been found to lead to changes in personality traits. Personality is an important predictor of health and well-being, and also here you can see a humanized dog bio which make popular memes, but if you ask any dog owner, they will tell you immediately that dogs have their own personality, and what's more, that scientists can measure specific personality traits in dogs using owner questionnaires and behavioural test batteries. The dog has been suggested as a possible model for human personality development and the influence of personality on health. However, little is known about how ageing and experience may shape personality in pet dogs. There's been a steady increase in studies on dog personality. Most studies have concentrated on early development up to 2 years, or the predictability of certain early behavioural characteristics on adult behaviour. Early experience has been found to have a long-term effect on personality in dogs. Additionally, several studies have established differences in personality between dog breeds and breed groups, as well as between pure breeds and mixed breeds. Recent selection pressures have caused personality traits to be more correlated with the current role of the dog than with the breed's original purpose. The other most commonly reported factors that have been found to influence personality in dogs are age, sex, and reproductive status. Studies examining how behaviour changes with age or breed rarely take into account lifestyle demographic factors, which have the potential to influence both test batteries and questionnaire results. So our study aimed to answer 3 questions. What personality traits change across different age periods? At what age do changes in personality traits most prominently occur? And how do dog demographic, health, and environmental factors influence personality traits? We used a demographic questionnaire, which I'll go through in a moment, and a personality questionnaire specifically created for dogs. We advertised the study through our social media platforms, and dogs aged under 1 year were removed from the analysis, as previous research has shown that their behaviour does not remain stable over time. The final sample consisted of around 1,207 Hungarian dogs, of which 65% were purebred and 54% were female. This slide represents some of the demographic questions that we asked the owners. Dogs were put into 6 age groups corresponding to the different stages of development that dogs go through, including early adulthood, adolescence, middle age, the senior years, and the geriatric phase. We also looked at breed, but by splitting them into purebred and mixed and crossbred dogs, sex of the dog, the neuter status of the dog, the height in centimetres and weight in kilograms, and the body conditioner score, which was assessed by the owners. We asked the owners if their dog had sensory problems, like, for example, hearing and sight problems, health problems, or whether they had suffered from a previous trauma, such as being lost for a time or living in a shelter. And we also looked at the type of dog obedience task that the dogs knew and had been trained by the owner. So we used a short version of the dog personality questionnaire, which was created by Amanda Jones, and it's been extensively validated. And this version consisted of 45 short statements, such as, the dog likes to chase squirrels, birds, and other small animals. The owner could then agree or disagree with these statements regarding the behaviour of their own dog. The owner's ratings were made on a 5-point Likert scale, and the questions were grouped into topics or facets, as you see here, such as fear of people, playfulness, and prey drive. And then these were grouped into factors such as fearfulness and activity excitability. We made some modifications to the questionnaire as it needed to be translated into Hungarian. We then back translated it into English to make sure that each item content was preserved. To calculate the dog scores in each of the facets and factors, we used the scoring key provided by the author. So we examined the internal consistency of the questionnaire, which is a way to gauge how well it actually measures what we want it to measure. We did this by comparing the owner's answers in each factor to see how much they agree with each other. So if a dog scored highly on some questions relating to fearfulness, you would expect it to score highly on others relating to fearfulness. The measure we used here is called the Cronbach's alpha, and the closer it is to 1, which would be absolute agreement, the greater the internal consistency of the factor. The 5 factor or traits in the current sample range from 0.714 to 0.774, which confirmed that the translation of the questionnaire from English to Hungarian did not cause any changes in the factor structure. So, to answer the questions, what personality traits change across different age periods and at what age does changes in personality traits most prominently occur, we looked at each of the 5 factors and examined whether the scores differed between the 6 age groups. The results revealed significant age differences in 3 of the factors, which I'll now go through individually. So, this graph shows that younger dogs have higher activity and excitability levels than older dogs, a fact I think that we can all relate to and agree on. And the greatest age-related change in activity excitability occurred between early adulthood and middle age. And there was another in the late senior and geriatric age groups. This graph shows responsiveness to training. This also decreased with age. However, only dogs older than 12 years differed significantly from the other age groups. The greatest, oops, I missed that. I can go back, but you saw that the greatest change in the previous graph was shown. Maybe I can go back. Again in the senior age group and the geriatric age group there. Sorry, the final one was aggression towards animals, which showed a quadratic trajectory with age and peaked in dogs aged 6 to 10 years. The greatest age-related changes in personality traits occurred between the late senior and geriatric age groups. The most likely cause would be compensatory changes to biological aging, but it also could be influenced by the owner's attitude to their aging dogs, since we found that geriatric dogs receive less activity, interaction and training with their owners than the other age groups. This could lead to changes in the dog's behaviour. Previous studies have shown that cognitive changes generally occur after middle age in parallel with a decline in sensory and motor systems. In the current study, as you can see from the graph, 65% of geriatric dogs had sensory issues, in comparison to only 23% of late seniors. So sensory issues were likely responsible for the dog's drop in activity excitability and responsiveness to training traits in the geriatric age group. Oops, missed that one. So this table shows the results of the statistical models which we use to answer the question, how does dog demographics, health, and environmental factors influence personality traits? So the most important factors that influence the traits were age, weight, breed, sex, off-leash activity, diet, previous trauma, age of the dog which first arrived in the household, and the number of dog obedience tasks, so these are like general commands like sit, stay, lie down, that the dog could perform, the time spent in play or interacting with the owner, and the number of known commands. I will summarise some of the main results in the next slides that you'll see. So we found that larger, heavier dogs scored lower in fearfulness than smaller, lighter dogs, and purebred dogs scored lower in fearfulness than mixed breed dogs. Smaller dogs had lower scores in responsiveness to training than larger dogs, and owners rated male dogs as higher in aggression towards people and lower in fearfulness and responsiveness to training than females. Dogs with sensory problems had lower activity excitability than dogs with no sensory problems. Dogs that were previously exposed to traumatic experiences, like I said before, such as spending time at a shelter, changing owner even, who suffered traumatic injury or prolonged disease, showed higher fearfulness and aggression towards people and animals than dogs without such negative experiences. A greater number of dog obedience tasks known by the dog corresponded to a higher activity, excitability and responsiveness to training, and lower fearfulness and aggressiveness towards people and animals than dogs that could perform, for example, only one task, like sit. So the take-home message from our study is that our results revealed the importance of considering dog age in combination with other dog demographic factors such as sensory problems, previous trauma and training history when evaluating personality traits in dogs. These factors have so far received very little attention and should be the focus of future studies. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention. And also I'd like to thank all the owners who participated in the study and the whole team at the Senior Family Dog Project. And if anyone would like to read the paper, it is available free online to download from the Frontiers website. And we might possibly have time for a few questions.
Sure. Thank you very much for your presentation. It's very, very important, especially for dogs' welfare. So Jackie is making this question, so just 1 second. First, she says, this is great data. Does this then support me continuing to train, work, and regularly run distances of 2 to 10 kilometers with my gang, ranging from 18 months to 10 and a half years old? They are all fit and well.
Okay, so the question is about the amount of exercise that a dog should receive, right? This is a very, very complicated question, actually, and it's part of another project that actually I'm looking at the moment, where I'm actually speaking to vets and asking them, you know, what their opinion is in terms of what types of exercise the different age groups of dogs should have, because we also know, of course, this can vary depending on the breed of the dog, whether the dog is a working dog or not, how much exercise they're used to, and it's really, of course, then age as well. But what the results basically show is that although activity excitability does decrease with age, if you keep the fitness levels of the dog up, and obviously as you seem to be doing, Jackie, doing quite a lot of distance work with your dogs, then you can keep this activity excitability, maintain them at higher levels, so you don't necessarily have to be worried, obviously, that eventually your older dogs will slow down, but as long as you keep them fit and healthy, and you can even do some physiotherapy with them if you have a chance, then they can actually carry on to a pretty good old age. And of course, you just have to make sure that they don't have any health issues, and make sure they're all healthy. So yeah, great question. Thanks very much.